Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Amber Barnes, and I'm a wildlife biologist and program coordinator with the Pollinator Partnership. And we've got Elizabeth Kaufman on the line as well.
Hello, everyone.
And she's our plant ecologist and monarch habitat coordinator. And today we're going to talk to you about the Monarch Wings Across the Eastern Broadleaf Forest Initiative and provide you with project background information as well as some tips for plant identification and seed collection of our target species. So, Monarch Wings Across the Eastern Broadleaf Forest is a 2-year project that's been sponsored by a grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to the nonprofit, the Pollinator Partnership. And these next few slides are going to go through the background of it. So Monarch Wings, which I'm just going to call it from here on out, was started in fall 2016 and will wrap up in spring 2019. The main goal of this project is to increase monarch habitat throughout the landscape, and we're accomplishing this by several ways. First, we're working with existing collection programs to create a temporary, coordinated ecoregional seed collection and distribution network. And the skills and connections that our volunteers develop can then be applied to other local efforts and support local conservation capacity into future work. And this is a vital component of this effort because ecoregionally specific milkweed and other nectar plant species is commercially unavailable in large quantities within the eastern broadleaf forest. And our teams of dedicated volunteers are collecting regionally adapted seed from the landscape, which will then be used for enhancing monarch habitat throughout the eastern broadleaf forest continental province. Our second goal is in order to ensure well-planned, responsible collections are being carried out, we have developed standardized seed collection protocols that are being followed throughout the ecoregion. We are making sure to train our volunteers in plant identification and proper collection methods, and we want our volunteers to be confident in their abilities and to have all the resources needed to make successful and responsibly conducted seed collections. And in addition to our seed collection trainings, we're also holding technical trainings this summer led by our lovely Elizabeth, our monarch habitat coordinator. And these symposium-style workshops will provide technical assistance to public and private land managers and landowners working within the eastern broadleaf forest continental province, which is the area, that gulabi green spot on the map, who are engaged or interested in becoming engaged with monarch habitat planning, creation, restoration, and long-term management. And finally, our third goal, we're coordinating with partners to secure 4,688 acres of long-term habitat through partnership with public and private landowners. So being a 5-state project, we've got a lot of partners. And here's our list of our core group, but there are many others who have and will continue to contribute to the success of this program. So as you most likely know, monarchs are a migratory species. And the eastern population, which we'll be focusing on, overwinters in Mexico and works its way north throughout the spring and summer. And as this multi-generational migration crosses the country, it's really important to have a diverse array of milkweed and nectar sources to support all the portions of their migration and lifestyle. So having wildflowers and things available spring, summer, and fall. And these are the 20 target species located throughout the ecoregion that we'll be focusing on, with a bloom chart to illustrate that we did choose species that will be blooming and providing nectar resources throughout the growing season to fuel the monarch's migration and provide these much-needed host plants. And this list went through 7 rounds of vetting with botanical experts in order to find species that fit a number of qualifications and are present throughout all of our target states. And we aim to collect at least 300 total collections of these 20 target species, and we will use these collections to help with the securing and enhancement of our 4,688 acres across our target states of Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Ohio. So, what's the process here with these seeds? Well, this is a flowchart to give an overview of what will happen with the seed collections. First, our collection teams will go out and collect the seed, and then those seeds will be sent to Mason State Nursery for cleaning, testing, and temporary storage. From there, some of those seeds will be grown out into plugs, while others will be left as seed and will be distributed back onto the landscape. Our Monarch Habitat Coordinator will evaluate our plant materials and oversee their distribution back onto the landscape with the help of our many planting partners. So a few of our successes so far, we've done one whole collection season, and so we've getting ready for our 2018 collection season. But last year, our state leads have formed 27 collection teams throughout Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. We have trained over 240 volunteers, which have spent over 1,000 hours becoming trained, scouting, collecting, cleaning seed, entering data, and coordinating seed collection events. And combined, these teams have gathered 217 collections, including at least one collection from each of our 20 target nectar and host species. In 2017, we collected over 24 pounds of cleaned seed, and our partners at Mason State Nursery are currently in the process of growing out over 9,000 seedlings. And I just received these photos of the greenhouse, and they were too good not to share, so they're kind of thrown in here. But as you can see, the plugs are coming along well, and this is all possible because of the collection efforts of our dedicated teams who collected seed last year, and of course the blood, sweat, and tears of our fantastic team at Mason State Nursery, who have also spent many hours cleaning, processing, and growing out a portion of the seed. If these photos aren't inspiring, I don't know what is. I was very happy to open that up. Where are our collection teams currently located? While we did not have success establishing collection teams in all 5 states, we have garnered support from many wonderful groups and individuals throughout Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Approximate locations of our regional collection teams are displayed on these maps, and the smaller picture below illustrates the eastern broadleaf forest portion, continental province of each of the states. Let me see. So yeah, these are our collection teams, and then the green portion of each state is the area that falls within our target zone. And this graph is a summary of our 2017 collection efforts. So last year, as I said, we totaled a little over 200 collections. And as you can see, some species have been collected a bit more than others, and we'll still accept any of the 20 species as collections in 2018. But if you're listening to this and you're aware of sites within the eastern broadleaf forest continental province portion of your state that contain 50 or more individuals of a species of any of these lesser collected target plants, please let us know. We'd be happy to see if that would be a qualified collection site. So tasks on this slide that you as a volunteer could help with are bolded. But in 2018, the program needs to do a few things. We need to gather an additional 100 collections of our target species. Again, our goal is 300, but we're certainly happy to make more than that. And hold another 6 collection seed collection training courses. And we're wrapping up the last of our in-person seed collection trainings in May, but we will be utilizing our online module to reach additional volunteers. If you know people who may be interested in the online training, please, feel free to send them our way. And our Monarch Habitat Coordinator will be holding a series of 5 habitat technical training courses this summer throughout our target states. And Pollinator Partnership has been working with public, private, and private working landowners and managers that are committed to monarch conservation and long-term management and maintenance of habitat in Arkansas, Illinois, Missouri, and Ohio. We launched an online application for anyone with 1 or more acres of habitat within our target region of the EBF, Eastern Broadleaf Forest. That is being managed currently for monarchs to fill out. And we're still looking for additional submissions from Illinois, Arkansas, and Missouri, and we'll accept applications until May 31st. And you can find all that on our website, which we'll give you the link to later. And this online application is our first step in identifying monarch habitat across the ecoregion. And the responses are going to help us create a comprehensive survey of all the monarch habitat acres across the region. And in return, our applicants have been entered into a chance to receive a free on-site visit by our P2 Monarch Habitat Coordinator, Elizabeth, who will conduct a monarch habitat site evaluation and be able to offer monarch habitat development guidance. And finally, in 2018, our Monarch Habitat Coordinator is coordinating with our core partners, satellite partners, and survey respondents to identify and secure the 4,688 acres of quality monarch habitat that can be preserved and enhanced with our collected seed and grown out plugs. So if you're listening and you're interested in participating as a certified seed collection volunteer but haven't been able to attend one of our in-person trainings throughout the region, no worries. You can visit our training page, which the link is here, and it's also after the presentation. Denise has it on our pod. And get started today if you'd like. We've set up a simple 6-step online training process to prepare you for collections in the field. And step 2 is to watch one of our training webinars. So if you're watching this live today or recorded, you can count this as completion of step 2. And if you're interested in contributing to this conservation project, it is vital that you complete the other steps of the training, including emailing me your completed volunteer waiver form and filling out the contact form on the website. We won't know that you've completed the training if you don't fill out the contact form on our webpage. So with that information, we can then send you your training certificate and get you in touch with the nearest collection team lead in your area. And through this project, we have created several materials to ensure that our collection volunteers are well prepared and conducting high quality, responsible seed collections. All of these materials, and you can see some of them pictured on this slide, are housed on our website and available for free download. The seed collection manual covers every aspect of conducting a seed collection event, from scouting to shipping the seed. And this one guide is informative for all levels of participation, including team leads, data collectors, and volunteer collectors. While our team leads are well-versed in plant identification, it always helps to have a guide on hand. So to accommodate this need, P2 has created plant profiles for each of the 20 target species we're focusing on in our Monarch Wings project. And while they're not a substitute for a detailed field guide, these profiles cover identification characteristics, potential confusing species, and have several photos for guidance. We highly encourage all volunteers to download and review these profiles before heading out into the field. Team leads are there to help with any questions, and each should have a laminated copy for use in the field as well. And we've also posted in our in-person training PowerPoint slides onto our download center page. We can see a screenshot of that, as well as our 20 target species with the bloom chart. And the website for all that stuff is on the bottom right there, as you can see. So now that you have a bit of project background, we're going to move on into the protocol basics and then the plant identification and collection tips. I'm going to take a second for a sip of water. All right. So this webinar is intended to introduce you to our program and give an overview of the protocol. But if you plan to become a trained volunteer after viewing this webinar, it is important for you to download and review the full seed collection manual and become familiar with the full process. Not only will this allow you to have a better understanding of our project and additional ways you may be able to help out your team lead if you desire, but it will also educate you on all the work and many steps that go into conducting a successful collection event. One of our core goals with this project is to train volunteers in how to properly conduct a seed collection, and we really hope that these skills you learn through Monarch Wings will transfer and enable you to contribute to community conservation projects into the future. So a bit about the programmatic structure. Monarch Wings is a large project with a lot of moving wheels. And as such, there are several tiers of responsibility to keep everything moving forward and ensure that no one person is saddled with all the work. So Elizabeth Kaufman and I are the Pollinator Partnership Program Leads, overseeing the organization, overseeing and organizing the program with the help of our core partners, as well as leading trainings and managing the seed collection and distribution effort. We're here to help answer any programmatic questions you may have. Our state leads have helped identify, organize, and train our seed collection teams and are the go-to reference on regional questions. They're actively coordinating with our team leads and assisting with permitting and identifying potential locations. Next is team leads, and they're the local leads throughout each state. They're responsible for scouting for sites, obtaining permits, identifying populations, coordinating and leading collection events, maybe collecting the data, and also drying and shipping the seed to the cleaning and storage facility. And then finally, our collection volunteers. They're responsible for learning our 20 target species, becoming familiar with the collection protocol, attending seed collection events whenever they can, and submitting their volunteer hours online. If you desire to be more involved, you're more than welcome. Many teams are very welcoming to additional help with scouting locations and other tasks. So just reach out and let them know you're interested. But we know that everyone's free time is very precious. So since our team leads and data collectors have already been identified throughout our active collection states, this webinar is going to focus mostly on what you as a seed collector need to know. But this slide reviews the basic framework for conducting a collection. We feel like it's important for everyone to know at least the framework, so I'll go over the basics here. And anything underlined or bolded are things that volunteer collectors will be responsible for. So first, a team lead has to reach out to contacts, work with their state lead, and find populations of at least 50 individual plants of a species of one of our targets. Then they have to obtain permission to access these properties and collect seeds. Everyone that participates in the project needs to fill out a volunteer waiver form and submit that into Pollinator Partnership or their state lead. And then the real meat is going out and scouting these potential sites while they're in bloom to confirm plant identification, assess the target population, if it's large enough, if it fits our needs, and estimate the time of seed set. And then from there, the team leads need to go out and scout again during seed set to assess the seed maturity and quality to estimate if and when a collection event should be scheduled. From there, your team leads will set a date and contact volunteers to arrange a collection event. And then our teams will come together, gather seed. Our data collectors will collect the data necessary, and then the seed will be dried, slightly cleaned, and then shipped to Mason State for processing and a full cleaning. So even though your team lead will have already gone out and scouted the site to make sure it's ready for collection, anybody who's going to be out with them still needs to learn to differentiate between an immature and a mature seed head or seed pod. Not every plant will mature at the same rate, so although enough plants at the site may be ready for collection, you'll still need to be able to identify plants that aren't quite ready yet to ensure that you're collecting the most viable seed. And so some characteristics to look for, look for changes in fruit and seed color. So fruit would be a seed pod or something. The fruit should be splitting or breaking open. Seeds may rattle. Seeds can be hard and dry, and some will have already dispersed. And these two photos of Zizia aurea are a really great demonstration of these qualities. As you can see between the top photo of the immature seeds, these are definitely greener. There's a big change in color between these two. And while these aren't in a seed pod and they won't be splitting or breaking open, if you touched these, they wouldn't fall off of that. But if you touched these, they would probably crumble off the plant and land in your hand or on the ground. And again, with the seeds being hard and dry, these you could probably pluck off and cut them open with your thumbnail. They'd be pretty soft and even milky inside. But these seeds are going to be much harder, drier, and you may not even be able to break them with your nail. And finally, seeds will have already dispersed. If they're at that natural dispersion rate, that means that they're going to be ready to go. So again, your team lead will ensure that the majority of the seed is ripe for picking, but it's essential for each volunteer to learn the difference between a seed that's ready and one that is not. So one method of determining this is by conducting a cut test in the field. And not every seed is amenable to inspection using this method. Some are simply too small. But as such, it's important to always consider the visual assessment characteristics you learned on the last slide when inspecting plants. So that said, let's go over what a cut test is and what it can tell you. So what is it? Well, it's a method of testing seeds by cutting them open. And then you can check out those internal tissues and see whether or not they are fully developed or if they are damaged. And this can tell a collector several things. Whether or not the seed is mature enough. But also, if the proportion of the empty or infested seeds is greater than 30%, that might not be a great collection site. Or, if there's a ton of plants out there, you can increase the number of seeds collected in order to compensate for the non-viable ones. So these cut tests can help guide whether collection should be done, whether the seeds are mature, and maybe even how many seeds should be collected from the population. And as I've said already, the seeds will be reaching their maximum viability and peak maturity at the time of natural seed shed. So that's a great indication. But every plant isn't going to be on the same timeline. And so when you go to the site, compare seeds and pods that are at their natural distribution phase and ones that aren't, in order to avoid collecting undeveloped pods. They are not going to continue to develop once removed from the plant, so it's essential to ensure material you're collecting is ready. And here's some characteristics of mature, immature, and damaged seeds to guide you, with some really great pictures. So with the mature seed, as I already discussed, it is going to be based on the presence of a fully developed embryo, and that outer seed coating is going to be a bit harder. And you can tell between, even on the squeeze test and the cut test, there's that full characteristic, and you can see that the embryo is well developed in that bottom seed. With an immature seed, that outer coating is going to be softer, that inner tissue may be milky, and it's just not going to be as firm. And with an empty seed, it's likely the result of either insect damage or failure to mature. And you'll be able to notice that both from just looking at the seed with the squeeze test, as well as cutting it open. So what are we going out there to collect? Well, in order to reduce the likelihood of contamination of our seeds by insects, fungus, and other undesirable factors, It's important to only collect the seed heads, seed pods, and actual seed whenever possible. So please don't collect any excess materials such as stems and leaves when possible. And when stems are necessary, in the case of like a fluffy seed, please remove them before shipping to the seed cleaning facility. So what doesn't go in the bag? Well, it may seem silly to list weeds on this list. We know our collection volunteers are environmental stewards and definitely would not intentionally contaminate any of the collections with this kind of seed. But there's many ways you can accidentally allow weed seeds into your bag. So a couple examples would be to keep your bag closed as you're walking through a site from one plant to the next. And what this can do is avoid seed dropping in your bag from weeds you pass as you might disturb it. Also, if collecting with two hands from a plant, you're going to have to set your bag or bucket down on the ground. Ensure that nothing weedy is above you. So as you're taking the seed off that plant, those weeds won't fall into your bucket or bag when you bump it. Also, just be mindful of your clothing and make sure if weed seeds get on your sleeves while you're navigating the site, you brush them off before you put your arms back into your bag. As far as insects, no collection is going to be insect-free, but do your best to avoid plants that appear infested. So, a bug or two is fine, but if it's crawling with insects, just move on. And then rocks, clippers, and sunglasses. Mason State has expensive seed cleaning machines, and it's important that no rogue materials accidentally get included with the seed and inserted into their machines. So make sure all tools are accounted for, and we're not set in the bag for safekeeping or to weigh it down on a windy day and then forgotten. It happens. And so, again, we need to really make sure to be aware of weeds. If a collection is found to be contaminated with weed seeds, it will have to be discarded to ensure that this program doesn't accidentally spread noxious weeds throughout our region. And we don't want all the hard work that goes into scouting, planning, collecting, and cleaning the seed to go to waste. So be careful about what you pick and that your bag or bucket isn't under a weed when you're collecting your target species. So for collection techniques, now that we know how to identify if a seed is mature and we're confident in what should and should not go into our collection bags, how do you randomly collect and not exceed 20%? Well, the Bureau of Land Management Seeds of Success program recommends only 20% of an individual plant's reproductive output be collected in a single year. So we're advising that people collect randomly from a diverse selection of plants of that your target species you're out to collect that day, regardless of its characteristics. So we want to ensure we're getting genetically representative propagules suitable for plant reintroductions. Don't stay in a small area, even if it has dense plants. You definitely want to collect there, but you also need to spread far and wide throughout the site, because these are often probably related. You also want to watch where your other team members are going, and don't collect from the same spots. It's best to spread out first and collect on your way back so you can avoid over-harvesting. Because if each person who passes a plant takes 20%, we will easily be over-harvesting. So just being cognizant of where everybody is and not hitting up the same plants. And you want to collect as broadly in an area as possible to collect the most diverse selection of material, making sure to include all the different microhabitats throughout the site. So if there are wetter or drier or steeper areas where you see the target plants growing, make sure to collect from those areas. And you don't only want to collect hip-high species. You need to look higher and lower. Don't avoid scraggly plants and only focus on lush ones. We want to get broad genetic representation in these collections. And that scraggly plant may have important characteristics which will help it flourish under different conditions than that particular growing season. So if it's wetter or drier or warmer, the characteristics that it have might flourish under those other conditions. And we want to have as diverse of a seed genetics as we can get. And you want to either collect everything from every 5th plant that you come along, or collect 20% of the seed on each plant that you pass. And the technique will likely vary for the different species. And team leads can help advise when you get to the site, which of those techniques will work best. And we really need to be good stewards and ensure that we're not negatively impacting our collection site in order to help these monarchs. So we want to leave 80% of the seed to perform its natural ecosystem functions of reseeding the area, of providing habitat, and feeding wildlife. And there are a couple methods in which we are collecting data for this project. And our teams are already set up with data collectors, so I'll only be giving a brief overview of this part of the project. So you're aware of what others may be doing while you're out there collecting seed. We partnered with the University of Arkansas Center for Advanced Spatial Technologies, they'll refer to as CAST from here on out, to come up with a mobile application to capture the geospatial distribution of our collections. CAST used the Survey 123 application to create a survey that allows us to capture the GPS coordinates and other characteristics of each seed collection. And this goes into a secure database that will be used to help us redistribute the seed on the landscape. It also functions as a photo library to ensure that the correct species are being collected. And these photos are also helpful for outreach, education about monarchs, seed collection, and this project. So on this slide you can see a screenshot of our Survey 123 app, a few examples of some of the photos that have been taken, and when we're talking about geospatially tracking, we're just going to have a pin for exactly where those collections were made onto a map. And we also have paper data collection forms, and it is essential that both the paper and the digital data collection is completed. They don't cover all the same information, and a copy of the paper form will be kept by each team lead for their records, which can be really helpful for projects beyond monarch wings. And a copy will be sent along with the seed to Mason State for their records and cataloging the seed as they receive it. We've also developed several other different forms to assist team leads and data collectors in keeping everything organized. And whether you're collecting seed from your own garden or collecting seed from a field for a project, it's key to always label your collection bag and make sure that you're taking down all the data while you're on site. Otherwise, it's likely you may forget pertinent details. So what happens after the seed's been collected? Well, seed shouldn't be collected while it's wet, but regardless of whether or not your seed appears dry, it's still going to need a 3-day drying period to get rid of all the residual plant moisture and allow any accidental bugs which were collected to scurry off. Each team will have its own way of processing the seeds after a collection event based on their team structure and what kind of facilities they have available to them for drying and cleaning the seed. Our team leads will let our teams know if they need any assistance in cleaning the seed before shipping it off. Mason State will conduct a thorough cleaning of the seed once it arrives, but it's important for teams to ensure that there's no extra plant material, such as stems and leaves. These can take up room, which can cause take up room in the bags and can cause mold growth or be infested with leaf or stem-boring insects. And collections shouldn't be kept for long periods of time before shipping to ensure that the seed maintains maximum viability when it's received at Mason State. But it is okay to hold on to them for a week or so in proper conditions, so in a dry, dark, cool location with ventilation, in order to send the seed in bulk when possible. And our team leads will be handling the shipping, so this isn't anything our volunteers will have to do. And as you can see from our photo here, when you dry the seed, you want it to be about 1 layer thick, spread out on newspaper if possible, to really let the ventilation and the air hit those seeds. So there's a few other things to keep in mind, including personal safety concerns, as well as preventing the spread of noxious weeds. So, we are definitely interested in making sure that all of our volunteers are aware of all the different safety concerns that they should be mindful of. So remember to be careful when handling milkweed plants, especially if you have sensitive skin. The sap can be damaging, and you definitely don't want to touch your eyes. If you get the sap in your eyes, initial irritation can be painful, followed by cloudiness of cornea, which can take up to a week to clear up. So you definitely want to avoid getting any of that milkweed sap on your face. So just wear gloves while collecting milkweed pods. Avoid contacting your face with your hands or your gloves. If you're sweating, use your back of your arm or something. And wash your hands carefully when you're done collecting. If milkweed sap does get into your eyes, seek medical attention immediately, and make sure to discuss any allergies such as latex with partners. Aside from the milkweed, we want to make sure that everyone brings plenty of water, at least 1 liter. Definitely don't want to get dehydrated if you're out in the middle of the field with a bunch of fellow collectors. Also, just wear sunblock and bring a hat. And if you are collecting by a roadway, make sure to wear bright clothing and don't collect along any busy highways. Always check for ticks after leaving the field. And don't be shy. It's a team effort, and feel free to ask your fellow teammates to check your back and check the back of your neck and things like that, because it can be hard to see some of those areas. We recommend tucking your pants into your socks and using insect repellents. And remain aware of your surroundings. Watch for poison ivy, poison oak, anything like that, because you don't want that surprise the next day. So while we're definitely concerned about the individual safety of each of our volunteers, we also want to be good stewards to these areas that we are visiting. So we want to ensure the collection site's health and well-being as well. And in natural resource work, including seed collections, equipment, organisms are often brought from one location to another. And this provides the potential for a spread of non-target species to invade new habitats. And non-target species are plants, animals, disease, pathogens, and parasites that are not intended to be moved. So as responsible environmental stewards, it's essential that we do our best to reduce our impact and prevent the movement of invasive and weedy species whenever possible. So we've outlined a few simple ways that we can try and avoid that. So first of all, just educate yourself. Learn to identify the problem weeds you may encounter. It's easy to learn to identify problem weeds in most areas, and you can find a host of free identification guides for your region. Come clean. Before leaving your home, take a little time to inspect your gear, remove dirt, plants, seeds from clothing, boots, gear, and vehicles. And pay attention to your surroundings when you're at the site. Avoid parking in weedy patches. Most weeds will spread along roadways, as vehicles can easily transport many types of weeds and seeds. So avoid parking in weedy spots. Avoid walking through weed patches to reduce the amount of seed you may be transporting as hitchhikers as you move through. And before you leave, make sure you leave clean. Carefully inspect yourself and your equipment at the end of your trip. Any weed seeds that might be clinging to you, make sure to get those off before you leave. You can use a stiff brush or a stick. A screwdriver can work for the treads of your boots. And don't clean clothing or footwear near waterways. It may promote the spread of invasive species downstream. So not only is this important work, but it's also really fun. Feel free to take photos and send us pictures of your collection teams in action. We can use these photos to promote the vital on-the-ground work that our volunteers are doing and raise awareness about the monarch's decline. And one of the many important measures that a grant funding agency look at to judge the success of a project is community involvement and volunteer support. It's important for us to understand the various affiliations and time spent by our volunteers so we can report this to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation as an in-kind match of time. These records can also be beneficial for a volunteer to track. In some states, depending on your income, you may be able to use this information as a tax write-off. As you can see, this is a screenshot at the bottom of our website, and you click on your appropriate state to log your hours. So, that is the basics of the project and background. And now I'm going to turn this over to Elizabeth to start talking about our species.
Thank you, Amber. Appreciate the introduction. Hello, everyone. Now that Amber has discussed some of the basics of the project, let's talk about the plants that you'll be collecting in more detail. The next slides will focus on specific plant ID and seed cleaning. As we mentioned, detailed profiles are available in the downloadable training manual and can be used for reference through your seed collecting endeavors. And just a quick note before we get started, we're going to cover a lot of details about the 20 species of plants we're targeting. We don't want you to be overwhelmed. As we discussed earlier, these plants are going to bloom throughout the year, spring, summer, and fall. So you'll never show up at a site and need to be able to identify all 20 plants at once. And as you get to learn more about the traits of each of these species, by the end of the season, many of them will stand out to you when you look across the landscape. Today is just supposed to be an introduction to the many distinguishing traits of these wildflowers. And just another quick note, we recommend that you scout your areas when the plants are flowering so you can ID and familiarize yourself with the location of your plants. You want to take notes and GPS points because nothing will be looking the same once it has nest and gone to seed. The first plants we'll be looking at are the milkweeds. As many of you know, milkweeds are the host plant for the monarch butterfly. In our Monarch Wings program, the milkweeds that we will be targeting include common milkweed, swamp milkweed, and world milkweed. Asclepias syrica, or common milkweed, grows in sandy or rocky soils. It's an early colonizer of disturbed soils, which is why you can find it along roadways and in agricultural areas, as well as in open fields, prairies, and forest margins. It generally grows to be about 3 to 5 feet tall and occasionally up to 6 feet tall. It has single or mostly unbranched stems that are usually covered in short hairs. The leaves are broadly ovate to elliptical, up to about 8 inches long, with a prominent central vein. They are arranged opposite of each other, and the bottom of the leaf surface has short woolly hairs that you can feel if you run your finger across it, while the top side will be hairless. They bloom from May to August. The flowers will be found in rounded clusters of usually about 25 to 140 individual flowers. They grow at the top of the stem or in the upper leaf axils. A distinguishing characteristic is the 3 to 4 inch seed pod that has, here we go, that has these, here we go, with the pointer. Whoop. It has these small projections. The pods will turn gray to gold brown when ripe. Asclepias incarnata, or swamp milkweed. This milkweed prefers moist soils. You can find it in wet meadows, on floodplains, or in open wet woodlands, as well as in prairies and open fields and roadsides if there's enough soil moisture. The plants generally grow to about 5 feet tall. They bloom from July to September. Besides finding swamp milkweed in a different habitat, you can distinguish it from common milkweed by a few of its different features. It has long, narrow, lance-shaped leaves that taper to a pointed tip that also grow in opposite pairs up the stems. It branches towards the top of the plant with one or more flower clusters ranging from pink to deep pink and sometimes with white centers. Versus the common milkweed, go back here, which flowers and these leaf axils going up the stem. The seed pods, which are narrow on swamp milkweed, have a smooth surface and will turn brown when ripe. Dogbanes. We don't want to be fooled by dogbanes, which are relatives of Asclepias. Like milkweed, milky juice will exude from broken stems and leaves. However, monarch caterpillars cannot survive on it. It's generally a 2 to 5 foot, widely branching, bushy perennial with opposite oval leaves. Its distinguishing characteristics include small groups of teeny white to pink bell-shaped flowers that form near the branch tips and face downwards. Unlike the milkweed species that we're targeting, its seed pods hang downward and look kind of like a vanilla bean, long and slim. Asclepias verticillata, or world milkweed. World milkweed grows as a single-stemmed, unbranched plant, usually not more than 2 feet tall. The linear leaves are narrow, approximately 1/8 of an inch, and grow in whorls along the stem, thus its common name. 7 to 20 small greenish-white flowers occur in flat-topped clusters on the upper part of the stems from June through September. Seed pods are long, thin, and have smooth surface, and grow upwards on the plant as pictured. World milkweed can occur in a variety of habitats, from upland prairies to meadows and into pasture areas. Collecting milkweed seeds. You don't want to harvest seeds before they're mature. Once you've accurately identified the plant, periodically check the progress of the pod. Milkweed pods will go from a soft green to a gold yellow or gray brown when they're mature. Collection time for most milkweeds is late summer to fall. You want to collect the pods, again, as they turn yellow or grayish brown and begin to split. White fluff will likely be visible. The seeds should be brown and plump. Split the pod open and remove the fluff. Follow the protocol for dry seed storage. And don't collect pods that have holes in them, as the seeds are most likely not viable due to insect damage. These are giant milkweed beetles. If you see these guys, don't collect those pods, and please don't put them in your collection bags because the beetles will damage the seeds, making it non-viable. Milkweed beetles will not eat their way into the pods, but will wait for the pods to open on their own. Next, we'll move on to composites. Heliopsis helianthoides, or oxeye sunflower, also sometimes called fall sunflower, are upright branching perennials that typically grow up to 4 feet tall. Its leaves are opposite, coarsely toothed, and are up to 6 inches long. Its flower heads face upwards, versus many true sunflowers that have flower heads that nod sideways. The flower heads are about 1.5 to 3.5 inches wide, with yellow rays surrounding yellow to brownish disc centers. While sunflowers can be confused with many other BYFs, or big yellow flowers, so it's best to keep this one out in the field if you have any doubt. Seed collection time is in the fall. Seeds will mature about a month after flowering. The seed is ready for harvest when the heads turn from yellow to brown. Ripe seed will be grayish-brown in color. Some plants can be sterile, so crack some seed heads open before collecting to ensure that there is seed present. Place the entire dried flower head into the collection bag. When you get back to the office, check the bottom of the bag to see if the seeds have fallen to the bottom, and then gently mash the remaining flower head in the palm of your hand to remove any of the remaining seed. Coreopsis tripteris. This coreopsis is also commonly called tall tick seed. It's a tall, slender wildflower which grows 2 to 8 feet tall. It can be found in prairies, dry open woods, and woodland margins, as well as along roadsides and railroad tracks. The aromatic stem leaves are opposite and are divided into 3 to 5 narrow lance-shaped leaflets. Its flowers occur on numerous erect stems on the upper part of the plant. The flower heads are approximately 1 to 2 inches in diameter and typically have 8 yellow rays surrounding brown center discs. They flower from mid to late summer and then into the fall. The seed collection time will be late summer through the fall. The seed will be ready for harvest when the heads turn brown. The ripe seed is grayish to black in color. The genus name comes from the Greek word chorus, meaning bug, and opsis, in reference to the shape of the seed, which resembles a bug or a tick. Seeds are inside the calyx tubes that make up the flower head. Place the entire dried flower head into your collection bag, and when you get back to the office, check the bag again to see if the seeds have fallen to the bottom, and then gently mash the remaining flower head into the palm of your hand to remove any remaining seeds. Rotibida pinnata is also commonly known as gray-headed or yellow cone flower. It typically occurs in mesic to dry prairies, woodlands, as well as sites with a history of disturbance. The plants grow up to 4 feet tall. The leaves are alternate and pinnately divided into 3 to 7 segments. The composite flowers have a dull gray to brown cylindrical disc that stands approximately an inch tall and is surrounded by petal-like drooping yellow ray flowers. When bruised, the disc and the seed head are strongly aromatic. The seed collection time is typically late summer to fall. The seeds form on the inside of the cone in the center of the flower. When the cone becomes hard and turns grayish or dark brown, the seeds are ripe. Again, remove the entire cone from the plant and put it in your collection bag. When you get back to the office, gently pull apart the cones to dislodge any of the remaining seeds that haven't fallen to the bottom of your bag. Rudbeckia hirta, or black-eyed Susan. These typically occur in full to partial sun and can be found in open woods, prairies, fields, and along roadsides. It gets its species name of hirta in reference to the bristly hair that covers its leaves and stems. The plant stands erect 1 to 3 feet tall and blooms from summer through early fall. Its leaves are alternate and its flowers are up to 3 inches across with a dark brown rounded central disc surrounded by bright yellow petal-like ray flowers. Collection time is also usually late summer through fall. The seeds form inside of the cone in the center of the flower. When the cone becomes hard and turns grayish or dark brown, the seeds will have matured. This usually occurs about 3 to 4 weeks after the blooms fade. Again, you want to remove the entire cone from the plant and put it in your collection bag. When you get back to the office, check the bottom of the collection bag to see if hundreds of teeny little seeds have fallen to the bottom. Gently pull apart the cones to dislodge any remaining seeds. Next, we'll talk about plants that have seeds that are wind dispersed. Collection time for the following species is typically late summer through fall. You will know that the seeds are ready for collection when the pappus is dry and the white fluff begins to expand, like on a dandelion. The stems begin to brown. Like other members of the composite family, it's easiest to cut off the entire flower head and remove the fluff from the seed in an area where you're sheltered from the wind. The white fluff acts as a parachute and will carry the seeds away. The seeds should be dark in color and plump. Flat seeds indicate the embryo has not developed and the seeds are not mature. Eupatorium serotinum, or late boneset, can be up to 3 to 6 feet tall and can be found in moist prairies, meadows, and areas near drainage ditches or other sources of water. It's more common in disturbed areas, and it often forms colonies. It is largely unbranched below, but occasionally forms side stems towards the top. The stems are pubescent or covered in white hairs. The leaves are lanceolate, hairless, and coarsely serrated along the margin. They are arranged primarily opposite, although the upper leaves near the flower can also be alternate. Flowers occur in abundant branch clusters and consist of numerous heads of white disc florets with no ray flowers. Eupatorium perfoliatum, or common boneset, is common in wet soils and open woodlands, meadows, prairies, and along stream banks. It grows erect, 3 to 4 feet tall. Flat-top branch clusters of small white flowers appear above the foliage in the late summer to fall. Again, the flower heads only have disc flowers and are without ray flowers. The leaves are opposite, lance-shaped, and unite to surround the hairy stems. The species name, perfoliatum, means through the leaves. The foliate foliage is quite distinctive and will be a key feature in identifying this plant. Tall boneset can be confused with common and late boneset, and because of the flower, but the leaves are different, so use the leaves as your key feature and identification. The leaves on tall boneset are not perfoliate, but rather have petioles, or stem-like structures, and have 3 main veins as opposed to the 5 veins that are found on late boneset. Symphyotrichum levi, or smooth blue aster, typically occurs in prairies, rocky glades, dry open woods, and thickets. It grows 1.5 to 3 feet tall. It's usually unbranched below while branching occasionally above. Alternate leaves occur along the entire length of these stems, becoming gradually smaller as they ascend. Both lower and upper leaves are sessile and clasp their stem. The leaf surface is glabrous or hairless, and sometimes glaucous, which means it has a thin white film that rubs off. Small 1/2 inch to 1 inch flower heads have 15 to 30 violet blue to purple to white ray florets, which surround yellow disc florets. Flower heads are arranged in open, loose, panicle-like clusters and bloom in autumn. Symphyotrichum nova angeli, commonly called, Symphyotrichum nova angeli, commonly called New England aster, can be found in moist prairies, meadows, thickets, low valleys, and along stream banks. It is a stout leafy plant growing approximately 3 to 4 feet tall with an upright habit. Its leaves are hairy, lance-shaped, and grow up to 4 inches long and clasp the stem. It features a robust bloom of flowers in the fall and can be distinguished from other asters because of its more numerous 30 to 100 ray florets, which are purple, lavender, or pink, and surround its yellow center disc. Symphyotrichum pilosum, or frost aster, can be found in upland prairies and disturbed areas, including weedy meadows, pastures, and abandoned fields. It grows 1 foot to 5 foot tall. The stems, branches, and leaves of this aster are covered with white hairs. Its lance-shaped leaves are alternate on the stem. The flower heads are scattered throughout the upper half of the plant, which is widely spreading and has flowers that usually are growing on one side of the branch. Frost aster blooms in the fall with 15 to 35 white ray flowers surrounding yellow disc florets. This plant can easily be confused with several other white asters, so it's best to keep this one out in the field if you have any doubt. Vernonia gigantica, or giant ironweed, is one of the tallest ironweeds, growing from 3 feet to 7 feet tall and up to 10 feet tall. It occurs in low woodlands, along streams, in valleys, low thickets, and prairies. This perennial has stiff leafy stems, which are usually unbranched. Note the teeny hairs on the stem for the plant ID. These are arranged opposite on the stem. The magenta disc florets are arranged in a panicle or unbranched cluster from 6 to 16 inches across and bloom from late summer into fall. The common name for ironweeds is attributed to certain iron-like plant qualities, including tough stems, and rust-colored seeds. Smooth ironweed looks very similar to giant ironweed. However, the leaves of smooth ironweed are typically smaller than that of giant ironweed and are sometimes covered in black dots. Additionally, the flower head on smooth ironweed is more condensed. Now we can discuss all the rest of the plants on our target list. Chamaecrista fasciculata, or partridge pea, is an annual plant in the legume family that typically grows 1 to 3 feet tall. Showy yellow flowers that are up to 1 inch across bloom from the upper leaf axils in short clusters from late June to September. Each flower has 5 rounded yellow petals and 10 stamens. 6 are red and 4 will be yellow. These are pinnately compound and have up to 20 oblong leaflets. The leaves are also sensitive to daylight, folding in the late afternoon as it gets dark. The seed pods are about 2.5 inches long. Collection time for these plants is typically in the fall. The seeds ripen in the pods, which turn from green to brown when they are ready for harvest. Split open some of the pods in the field to make sure the seeds are brown and plump. If the seeds are still green, they're not ready. Once they're mature and you've collected them, back at the office, peel the pods to release the seeds. Pods will split open on both sides in the fall to expel the seeds within, so time your collection appropriately. Monarch fistulosa, or wild bergamot. You can find wild bergamot in prairies, dry rocky woodlands, along roads and railroads. It grows from 2 to 4 feet tall and is a member of the mint family. Therefore, it exhibits expected characteristics such as growing in mass, and it has square stems and aromatic leaves. Its lavender tubular flowers appear in dense terminal rounded heads. The seeds are ready for harvest when the flower head turns from green to brown. Ripened seeds are tiny and are found inside the calyx tubes that make up the flower head. Remove the petals, if there are any remaining, and place the entire dried flower head in the collection bag. When you get back to the office, check the bottom of the collection bag to see if hundreds of teeny seeds have fallen to the bottom. Tap the flower heads on a piece of white paper and the remaining seeds will fall out. Penstemon digitalis, or foxglove beard tongue. This can be found on mesic black soil prairies, openings in forest floodplains, and woodland borders, as well as in pastures and abandoned fields. The plant starts off as a rosette of basal leaves and eventually bolts, growing up to 3 feet tall. The rosette leaves are variable in shape but tend to be ovate. On the stalk, the leaves are arranged oppositely and become more lanceolate. The upper stem terminates into a flowering panicle or branching clusters of white flowers that are covered in sticky glandular hairs. Flowers are tubular, 1 inch long, and have a lower lip with 3 lobes and an upper lip with 2 lobes. Bloom time is late spring to early summer. Seed collection time is usually midsummer to fall. The seeds ripen in upright capsules that turn from green to brown when ready for harvest. The dried capsules can be turned upside down and emptied right into an envelope or collection bag. Pycanthemum tenuifolium, or narrow-leaf mountain mint, is adaptable and can be found in a variety of habitats. It is a branched herbaceous perennial that grows 2 to 3 feet tall and features linear leaves and terminal clusters of small white flowers which bloom in mid to late summer. All parts of the plant emit a strong mint-like aroma when crushed. The leaves are arranged oppositely on the stem, and like others in the mint family, mountain mint has a distinctly square stem. Collection time is typically late summer. Seed heads turn from green to brownish gray when ripe. Cut off the entire seed head and put it in the collection bag to dry. You can mash the dried seed in your hand or onto a piece of white paper to release the seeds from the calyx. The seeds are very teeny and dark brown. Tridescantia ohioensis, Ohio spiderwort, is often found in moist to mesic prairies and savannas, as well as other various environments. This plant usually grows 2 to 4 feet tall. The blue-green alternate leaves are up to 15 inches long and less than 1 inch wide. The light violet to blue-violet flowers occur in small, spidery clusters at the top of the plant. The flowers open up during the morning and close by the afternoon in sunny weather, but may stay open longer on cloudy days. Underneath each inflorescence are 2 distinct bracts, or modified leaves, up to 3 inches long and less than a half inch across. The best time to collect the seed is in the midsummer. Seeds ripen in capsules, which open as soon as the seed is mature. It is best to start checking the seeds regularly about 6 weeks after they bloom, as seeds are It's best to start checking regularly the seeds about 6 weeks after the flowers have been blooming. Seeds are typically intolerant of dry storage, so it's best to clean the seed and expedite the shipping. Verbena urdicifolia, or white vervain. This plant can be found in open disturbed woodlands, including semi-shaded areas along paths and damp meadows along streams. It is somewhat weedy, but rarely forms colonies. It exists primarily as scattered individuals and grows 3 to 6 feet tall. Its central stem is 4-angled and covered with long, spreading hairs. The leaves are opposite, lanceolate to ovate, and coarsely serrated along their margins. The central and upper stems terminate into a panicle of floral spikes up to 2 feet long. Flowers consist of a white corolla with 5 rounded lobes and a tubular green calyx. It blooms from midsummer to early fall. Only a few flowers will bloom at the same time. The collection time for seeds begins in late summer. Seeds ripen sequentially over the season, so not all the seed will be ripe at the same time. Harvest the entire flower panicle when about 75% of the nutlets are brown and dry. Put them in the collection bag and allow a week for the remaining flower heads to dry. Gently crush the capsules to release the teeny seeds by rolling them back and forth over a piece of paper. Verbena hosta looks similar to white vervain, but can be distinguished by its flower color, leaf width, and both flowers and seed pods are noticeably dense in comparison to the airy white vervain. Zizia aurea, or golden alexander, occurs in degraded and higher quality habitats, including moist black soil prairies, openings in mesic woodlands, as well as in abandoned fields. It grows to be approximately 2.5 feet tall. The stems are light green, hairless, and shiny. The compound leaves have 3 or 5 leaflets and are alternate up the stem. Flat to slightly rounded compound umbels of yellow flowers occur at the ends of the upper stems. Each compound umbel is about 2 to 3 inches across. The blooming period is spring to early summer. Collection will begin in the summer when seeds ripen into capsules on the flower umbel. The capsules turn from green to brown when they are ready to harvest. Remove the entire flower umbel and put it in the collection bag. Rub ripe capsules between the finger tips to release the seeds. And that was our final plant. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, for that great overview of our 20 target species. And thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in for today's webinar covering the basics of the Monarch Wings Across Eastern Broadleaf Forest project. If you're watching this to complete a portion of the online training, please make sure to complete the rest of the training at the link on the screen. And if, after watching this presentation, you're interested in finding out if there's a seed collection team near you, please reach out to myself, Amber Barnes, and I'll put you in touch with your state lead to find out. And you can see my email address is on the slide, ab@pollinator.org. And then, Elizabeth, you want to tell them a little bit about our upcoming technical trainings?
Sure. So we have 5 technical training courses planned for this summer. Our aim is to be engaging with landowners and managers to provide technical assistance regarding monarch habitat enhancement and maintenance techniques through a series of these both in-person trainings and the online follow-up webinars. As Amber mentioned earlier, these will be symposium-style workshops providing technical assistance both to public and private land managers and landowners working within the eastern broadleaf forest. And this is for people who are engaged or for people who are interested in becoming engaged with monarch habitat planning, creation, restoration, and long-term management. So if you go to our Monarch Wings page, you'll find the tab for the technical training and the webinars. The dates and the registration information for the trainings will be housed on the website. Once the trainings are complete, we'll use them for the basis for our 3 follow-up webinar series.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And as you can probably gather, this is a large-scale project which includes a lot of great work from many partners. And while we can't fit all of our wonderful collaborators on one slide, we wanted to ensure that the names and faces and contact information for the key in-state contacts were available to you. You can find the entire list in Appendix H of the contact section of the Seed Collection Manual that, again, is available for download on our website. And just remember the overall goal. We are working to provide habitat for the monarch butterfly. Thank you so much for registering for this webinar. We look forward to the potential to have you help collect seed for monarch wings across the Eastern Broadleaf Forest Project. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. So some of our frequently asked questions are a little bit more protocol focused, but really great things to know. So like when scouting a site for target populations, what's the minimum number of plants of a given species that should be present? And for our purposes of this project, we want sites to have at least 50 individual plants of one of those target species. And so, pollen is likely being exchanged among plants located within 3 miles of the center of a collection site. So as a result, they'll likely have similar genetics and are considered one population. So, those 50 individuals can be within a 3-mile radius, although it's always much more convenient when they're more centrally located. And another question we get often is, how much seed should we collect from a site? And we, understand that there's always time limitations and everything, but we recommend to just collect from as many individual plants as time will allow, but only taking 20% of the seasoned seeds for each species. So, for example, if there are 1,000 plants of one species, do the best to either collect 20% of the seed present on each plant, or, that 1 in 5, so collect all the seed from 200 plants. So you're getting that 20% total seed present.
April has a question about the properties that you're cooperating with for this project. Are most of them private, or are there state parks or DNR partners for this project?
Great question. Yeah, we are working along a variety of landowner types. So we have some collection sites many of them are either on parklands or things like that. But there's also a handful of private lands which people heard about our project and like, hey, we have those species, feel free to collect here. So it's a bit of a mix, but there are several partners within the state parks, and we are working closely with Fish and Wildlife as well, so they really helped us to identify some agency areas.